Should MPs tomorrow vote against 99% of the country being plunged into Tiers 2 and Tiers 3? Great to speak now to Anne Widdecombe. She is the former Conservative government minister. Anne, if you were back in government, would you cross the floor? Would you vote against your own party tomorrow in the name of civil liberties and what's right?
I would certainly be voting against the proposed measures, yes.
Why?
Not just in the name of civil liberties, as you put it, but rather more importantly, because I think this has been mishandled from the start. And, I mean, the recent developments are unbelievable. We've been in lockdown. We're told we're coming out. If you're in Tier 3, you might as well, frankly, be staying in. And not only that, but all the rules have changed. We had, for the sake of clarity, as Boris actually had the gall to say, Tiers 1, 2 and 3, and here were a set of rules which went with each one. And no sooner had anybody absorbed that than all the rules changed.
I know. And the rules are becoming increasingly ridiculous. So today we have a member of SAGE saying you can't spend any more than 15 minutes inside a shop. Then you have the government minister, George Eustis, the Environment Secretary, saying a Scotch egg counts as a substantial meal. But who decides what counts as a substantial meal? And what if you order one Scotch egg, you can have 10 pints? I mean, when are we going to start trusting the British public to use our common sense? Because you know what, Anne? Most of us have that.
I agree. And, I mean, you've asked the question that I've been asking throughout, which is, when on earth will they let us make our own judgments? They're making the rules up as they go along. They talk about a substantial meal. Then suddenly they're obliged to define it. So they decide, well, a Scotch egg will do. You couldn't make it up. You really couldn't. And it's what happens when you start trying to over-define things. I mean, right at the start, the guidance was, keep your distance socially. Don't mix at all if you think that you have any chance of having this thing. Take certain sensible precautions. That was what started. And then, as they tried to prescribe what we had to do, it got ever more ridiculous. Certainly I'd be voting against it tomorrow.
And then, Anne, we head to Wales, where, remember, a few weeks ago we were told the circuit breaker lockdown, as they called it, was going to make all of the difference. It was incredibly draconian. They shut down the entire country. Didn't make a blind bit of difference, Anne. So now Mark Drakeford, who runs the Labour government in Wales, has decided that prohibition is going to somehow control coronavirus. He's banned the sale of alcohol and he's shutting down the entire hospitality industry after 6 p.m. Has he just made this up?
Yes. Basically, what is happening is that all politicians, all of them, are covering themselves. They're terrified that at the end of this, they're going to be found wanting, or they're going to be sued, they're going to be blamed for individual deaths. And so they're always being seen to do something else. They've got to be seen to be doing something. So having done one thing and that having not worked, they then have to do something else. That's what this is actually all about. That's what it's about. It's about being seen to be doing something at the bar of public opinion. That's what it's about.
How brave does a Tory MP have to be, though, Anne, tomorrow to rebel against the government? Because remember, they're being threatened, especially the young ones, are being threatened with their career. If you vote against us, you will not be promoted. Wave goodbye to a cabinet career. How difficult is it if you're an MP in that situation? I don't have much sympathy because I think people should do what's right, but I'm trying to just understand the psychology because you've been there.
Oh, yeah, I have been there and I have been in that position. I did once when I was a very new backbencher, only a couple of years in. I not only voted against the government, I actually led a rebellion against the government at the time about the level of support they were giving to people in old folks' homes. I was told there and then, we won, we defeated the government, and I was told, that's it, your career is over. 6 months later, I was a PPS. 7 months later, I was a minister.
So ignore it, basically.
Ignore
They
it.
don't mean it.
He hasn't got that big enough a pool of talent to take that sort of line.
And I guess, actually, what you're doing is you're proving to the party machinery, I've got morals, I'm going to stand by my morals, I can't be walked all over, and maybe that's a good thing in some ways.
Well, I think it's a very good thing. Nobody with an ounce of fibre should ever allow themselves to be threatened by the whips. Now, there are some circumstances in which you do not vote against the government, a vote of confidence, for example. That you do not do, because to vote against your own government in a vote of confidence is effectively to vote to bring them down.
Yeah.
That you don't do. But on individual issues, providing you aren't making a habit of it and doing it so often that nobody knows whether they can rely on you or not, you are entitled to rebel.
I want you to react to a couple of the latest bonkers advice that we're being given by so-called experts. So this was Lucy Yardley. She is a professor of health psychology at the University of Southampton, but critically, she is a sage advisor recommending that we should not spend more than 15 minutes in shops. Have a listen, I'll get you to respond off the bat.
Well, the rule that is used for contact tracing is that if you spend 15 minutes with somebody closer than 2 metres, then you have definitely had a potentially infectious contact with them. So that's quite a generous amount of time. I'm not sure that most of us would need that amount of time in a shop. And really, the less time that you spend in there, the safer you are. If you spend time close enough to somebody and they happen to breathe on you or cough on you, then it doesn't take 15 minutes to catch the virus.
John, I mean, she's just proved her own point to be completely redundant by the end, hasn't she?
She really has. I mean, you listen to what's coming out of the mouths of these advisors now, and you wonder what on earth planet they're on. Lucy Yardley says if you spend 15 minutes in a shop closer than 2 metres to someone, I mean, what's she doing in shops? Sidling up to people and standing next to them for 10 minutes? It seems utterly ridiculous. That's not what happens in a shop. You don't stand next to people for 15 minutes. But
because we're social distancing.
At that level is to take it seriously. It's nonsense. We should be laughing at this.
I know.
And these people are serious advisors to government. We've got people saying, oh, you shouldn't play board games at Christmas. You should eat outdoors at Christmas. These people, are they having a laugh at our expense?
Well, and then
I look at the original proposal that Boris Johnson said that restrictions should last until April. And I wonder why they timed it April. Maybe because April the 1st is when they would have taken their masks off and said, April Fool. Because
we've just punked you for a year.
So that's what's being played on us. How much more ludicrous is this going to get before people look at Sage and say, let's take those advisors off there. Let's get some advisors who talk some sense.
Well, I've been saying that for months. That needs to happen, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. And in fact, some of this ridiculous advice is now coming from government ministers. George Eustis today, the Environment Secretary, saying that a substantial meal is a Scotch egg. Now, when he was asked that question by another radio station, why did he not just say, John, I trust landlords, and I trust restaurant owners, and I trust the public to make common sense decisions. Instead, prescribing a Scotch egg as a substantial meal, when actually that's a judgment for individuals, isn't it?
It absolutely should be a judgment for individuals. But I think when you talk about common sense decisions, I don't think ministers can trust individuals to make common sense decisions because they clearly can't make common sense decisions themselves. If a minister is struggling to try and define what you can eat when you go into a pub, then I'm afraid that minister has lost all grip on reality and should be immediately replaced. I don't know what planet your George Eustis has gone to, but let's leave him there and replace him with a minister who can talk some sense.
Now, the new vaccines minister is Nadhim Zahawi, causing quite a lot of controversy over the last couple of hours for suggesting that people who don't get vaccinated could be banned from many places, including the cinema and even the football. Have a listen to what he said and I'll get you to react afterwards.
We are looking at the technology and, of course, a way of people being able to inform their GP that they've been vaccinated. But also, I think you'll probably find restaurants and bars and cinemas and other venues, sports venues, will probably also use that system, as they've done with the app. Pressure will come from both ways, from service providers who will say, look, demonstrate to us that you've been vaccinated. But also, we will make the technology as easy and as accessible as possible. I think people have to make a decision, but I think you'll probably find many service providers will want to engage in this in the way they did with the app.
This is more madness, is it not, John Dobinson, because the government needs people to get vaccinated And if folk are already concerned about Big Brother following their every move, and they're now told that if they are vaccinated, it's going to mean there's a constant record via an app of everywhere they go, actually, it might put some people off.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a very dangerous approach. And I see two kinds of extremism at work here. On the one hand, there's the anti-vaxxers who we all hear a lot about from the government. But on the other, we've got these forced vaxxers who want to force the vaccine on everybody. And neither make any sense. They're both as mad as each other, as far as I'm concerned. But what a vaccine should mean is we have a safe, effective vaccine which should enable us to open up society as soon as possible. I mean, by all means, give it to those who are vulnerable who want it. By all means, give it to those who are frontline staff who feel they need protecting. And then there is nothing to stop us opening up the rest of society as soon as possible, because the damage that's being done to society is so great. Once the vulnerable are protected, there is no reason not to open things up as fast as possible. But this forced vaccine plan involves society being closed down until every single person has taken the vaccine.
Totally.
Quite apart from whether it's morally right, which it isn't, it is also incredibly destructive. It means more businesses closing, more delays for cancer patients getting treatment, more mental health problems, more young people committing suicide. It is an evil plan because it does so much to destroy people who could be freed to live their lives again.